Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am correct.
And I'm not, usually, but that's fine. Most days, Dalton Gentry.
This video will prove me correct. For all of you naysayers.
Today's the day?
Today is the day.
You're actually excited for once to, start with Harry Potter, so, I'm concerned.
Well, I say today is the day, but in cold, harsh reality, every day has been the day that I have slapped this series in the face.
Okay.
And people just continue to argue against it.
Okay.
Don't they?
They do.
Don't
That's
you?
fine. I do. But today's the day.
Today's the day.
Okay.
You cannot... Okay, go ahead. Go through
Let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk about the two chapters we read. We read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, chapters 25-26. Chapter 25 is Shell Cottage. We strike a deal with Grip Hook, and we are going to get access into Bellatrix Lestrange's vault.
Is it Grip Hook?
Grip Hook.
I didn't know if it was Grip Hook or Griff Hook.
Griff Hook?
By looking at it, that is definitely Griff Hook.
Griff Hook.
Griff Hook.
Let's go with that.
Griff Hook.
So we are going to access Bellatrix Lestrange's vault in exchange for the sword of Godric Gryffindor, because those damn humans stole that sword from us. I figured you'd have something to say about that.
We'll get there.
Anyway,
we'll get there.
Lupin arrives and announces that Teddy has been born and Harry's going to be a godfather. Yay, continuity. Everything's well in the world again.
Right.
Chapter 26, Gringotts. We enter Gringotts via a disguise, and Harry uses the Imperious Curse, which is apparently okay in good situations. The goblins are onto them, though. They locate the cup of Helga Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff. There's a weird, multi-ball spell or something where things just start multiplying and they're going to drown in a sea of hot metal, whatever. And Griffook turns on them. But the kids escape by taking the poor abused dragon and flying off into the sunset. Magic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing how J.K. Rowling loves to grab these abused characters and use them temporarily.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, we're going to start with old Griffook.
Griffook.
So we've got the argument between Hermione and Ron and Harry about using Griffook.
Okay.
Right? About abusing him and lying to him.
Okay.
And we get this exchange. Goblins have got good reason to dislike wizards, Ron, said Hermione. They've been treated brutally in the past. Goblins aren't exactly fluffy little bunnies either, are they? Said Ron. They've killed plenty of us. They've fought dirty, too. But arguing with Griffook about whose race is most underhanded and violent isn't going to make him more likely to help us, is it? Which is an interesting exchange. So, Griffook and the goblins are a marginalized peoples, right? That's obviously what's being set up there.
Okay.
They're marginalized. The easy comparison in the United States would obviously be Native Americans, right?
Okay.
It is that type of relationship that we are led to believe goblins have with wizards. Is it not?
Okay, that makes sense.
The wizards take their stuff. Goblins don't understand the giving process, the gifting process, the ownership process by which wizards understand it. That was a big deal with Native Americans and the British that came over. Was, hey, we'll give you this money for that land, and the concept wasn't there for them. They didn't, right? Wasn't that the big thing?
Okay.
So what?
No, go on.
You seem uncomfortable.
No, I'm not uncomfortable. I have a bit of a counterport. I think you might be incorrectly labeling the goblins, but let's go on with this. Let's move forward.
Okay. Either way, they're being set up by Hermione as a marginalized species,
okay,
or race, or peoples, right? So we get that argument. Hold on 1 second. And we, as wizards, we are on the side of the wizards here, right? We are not supposed to pillage, plunder, and rape others simply because we're more technologically advanced.
Okay.
Simply because that culture is different than ours. Except that our protagonist wants to use him, and even Hermione is okay with it as long as there's no lying. And then, on 509, how quickly we turn from 506, where they are treating this goblin as a marginalized person, and he is to be valued in that way, to the longer they spent together, the more Harry realized he did not much like the goblin. Griffook was unexpectedly bloodthirsty, laughed at the idea of pain in lesser creatures, and seemed to relish the possibility that they might have to hurt other wizards. Wow! So, Ron really was correct, wasn't he?
Okay.
Oh, that's a marginalized person, but fuck him. J.K. Rowling simply cannot help herself.
Okay.
She grabs onto these ideas, which is one of those ideas that she would be on Twitter spouting, right? And I'm not saying, I'm not arguing for marginalization, right? This is the precarious position you get put in when you write a text like this and you set someone up to be representative of a marginalized person, and then immediately backhand that idea by saying, yeah, he's marginalized, but he's also a piece of shit, right?
Okay.
So, on 510, we get this. The goblin ate only grudgingly with the rest of them. Even after his legs had mended, he continued to request trays of food in his room, like the still frail Ollivander, until Bill, following an angry outburst from Fleur, went upstairs to tell him that the arrangement could not continue. Thereafter, Griffook joined them at the overcrowded table, although he refused to eat the same food, insisting instead on lumps of raw meat, roots, and various fungi. Harry felt responsible. It was, after all, he who had insisted that the goblin remained at Shell Cottage so that he could question him. It was his fault that the whole Weasel family had been driven into hiding, and that Bill, Fred, George, and Mr. Weasley could no longer work. I'm sorry, he told Fleur one blustery April evening as he helped her prepare dinner. I never meant you to have to deal with all of this. So this marginalized person,
Okay.
which is, I mean, argue with me that this is not set up to be representative of a marginalized person.
No, I would agree with you that 100%.
But this marginalized person is so outstandingly awful that no one can stand him. And then, on 516, I know goblins, said Bill. Some of my best friends are goblins, right? How close is this quote to that? I know goblins, said Bill. I've worked for Gringotts ever since I left Hogwarts. As far as there can be friendship between wizards and goblins, I have goblin friends. Or at least goblins I know well and like. Then I have to say this, Bill went on. If you have struck any kind of bargain with Griffook, and most particularly if that bargain involves treasure, you must be exceptionally careful. Goblin notions of ownership, payment, and repayment are not the same as human ones. Native American notions of payment, repayment, and ownership are not the same as human ones.
Okay.
I know black people. I worked with black people at the bank. I have black friends, right? These are stereotypical racist arguments.
They are.
Like you don't even have to reach far into the ugly depths of racism to latch on to these ideas and quotes. You just drag them up from the 70s, right?
Well, let me lay some of this on you here real quick. I'm not going to argue against it that we're not talking about a racism here and marginalizing people, but I think you may have been a little misdirected with your Native American argument, because if I may, I know Jewish people. I'm friends with Jewish people. Worked with a lot of Jewish people at the bank. You got to be very careful.
Oh yeah, so that argument goes way back to the very first book.
Yes.
We brought that idea up in one of the very first episodes of this series.
But here we have a race of people who are basically the wizards have taken over. They've taken over all their possessions, but they still let them run the banks. They still let them work in all the banks. The goblins run Gringotts because they're good at that.
Yeah.
But you got to be very careful trusting them. They're going to take that pound of flesh from you. And if you look into the film version from this, every single goblin is a tiny little bald man with a big goblin nose. It's very racist.
I have no doubt that's what they look like in the movies. This is I can't believe that people are still arguing on behalf of this text. Because these things are not... It would be one thing if you set this character up like a stereotyped Jewish person, or like you used phrases that were... I mean, I know black people, I have black friends. That is such a stereotypical phrase, right? That, like, it blows my mind that was actually in there. Because now I look racist having to talk about it. And if you're going to use such obviously stereotyped language such as they don't understand ownership, they're not evolved enough to understand ownership, you don't then get to say that this is not representative of a marginalized people.
Okay.
And if you're going to set this up as a marginalized people, which I just don't understand how people are still defending this. I don't understand how people are still defending this because it's so blatant and so obvious and so stupid and surface level. This is, you don't get to then immediately backhand the idea and make that character, which is representative of an entire type of people, at least one type of people. And yeah, they're just a shit individual.
Again, you play it by any other card. If we take the idea of a goblin out of this, this makes the author honestly sound like a shitty person.
No, the author is a shitty person.
We brought this person in, had different dietary concerns. This person, only ate meat, things like that, and insisted that was all they eat. If we, again, go with this Jewish idea here, this person came over, they didn't want the meat touching the cheese. They wanted things separated.
They wanted kosher.
They wanted it kosher. We don't call him a piece of shit for being kosher. The guy in the tie-dye bandana came over and he only insisted on eating the vegetables and the motherfucker kept asking for more broccoli.
Wanted hemp. Who has hemp?
Who has hemp? I'm just saying. I think I agree with you 100%. I got a very Jewish racist stereotype through this.
Well, it's almost impossible to talk about without sounding racist yourself. It was not me who created the stereotype of Jews as bankers.
Okay.
Right? It was not me who came up with the phrase, I don't hate black people, I've got black friends.
Okay.
It was not me who created the stereotype that Native Americans don't understand the idea of ownership. That wasn't me. All of those things are condensed in this one chapter of this one book. And it turns out, not only is that guy kind of a shit character, he's also more than willing to stab you in the back.
It's true.
What is a stereotype about Jews? One of the stereotypes about Jews is they value their gold more than their friendships.
We could push it back to, again, Merchant of Venice.
What is one of the stereotypes about black people? They stick with their own and they don't care about anyone else.
Okay.
What is one of the stereotypes about Native Americans? Indian giving, right?
Okay.
All three of those are terrible stereotypes that aren't mine, but someone's going to say you're racist for seeing that in there, aren't they? It's right in the same chapter. All of those things are in there, which I would be fine with if you're not setting this up as allegory.
Okay.
But step for step along the way, we're setting this up as allegory, aren't we? You pointed out a comment to me in a former video from this series of someone saying that this series is an argument against racism. It's not an argument against racism when you set someone up as obviously representative of a marginalized people and then you make them the bad guy immediately by falling straight into the stereotypes that the characters inside the text have against them. That's not an argument against racism. That's not an argument against hatred. That is saying, you know what? We white people were right the whole time. Us white people, us wizards. Because, all the wizards in the text are white people, right? We've made this argument several times. White people have the magic. White people are magic. Other people are lesser, but we shouldn't kill them. But they're definitely lesser. It's in the text.
Some days when I have a bad day, I sit down and just listen to you complain about the text. It makes me feel better. It does.
It doesn't make me feel better because I know someone is going to think that I'm being racist here. That I'm the one who's obviously faulted because our Queen J.K. Rowling is using this entire series as an argument against racism, even though she employs every stereotype there is to be employed and then proves it correct with her characters. I don't understand. Don't tell me, do not tell me that this series is an argument against racism, against bigotry, against sexism, against misogyny. Prove it. Because we're nearing 100 videos on this series. I'm nearing 100 videos where I'm laying out arguments that the text says this. Don't tell me it doesn't. Tell me why I'm wrong. I dare you, I defy you, I implore you. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why Harry Potter is not rotting the minds of youth everywhere. And maybe that's why things are going so shitty today. We've got so many people who have such confused ideas of what it is they're trying to accomplish because they grew up with fucking Harry Potter as literature.
Feel better?
No.
Sometimes I like to just let you go off on a rant, then I look down at my notes, I'm like, stolen sword from Goblin King, sword of David Bowie. Let's just not bring that up right now. Let's just let it go. It's the Goblin King! They stole the sword from the Goblin King! It's the sword of David Bowie. David Bowie is Godric Gryffindor.
In the movies?
No.
What?
The Goblin King from the Labyrinth? David
Okay,
Bowie's the
so-
Goblin King?
People don't get to tell me that I'm making things up in the books anymore. Because Dalton's bringing David Bowie into Harry Potter.
It's the sword of David Bowie. This is
Okay.
all about the sword of David Bowie.
Okay.
And let's be honest, I'd probably kill someone for the sword of David Bowie as well.
I certainly hope that this is not the video where you forgot to press the record button, because I want that on the internet.
I really hope I did at this point, but this will be the one that we fucked up. I want you to know that. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about some other things that that happened in here. We did get to witness Harry Potter using the Imperius Curse, which is an unforgivable curse. It's one of the big bads. You're not supposed to do this. The good guys don't do this. However, for the greater good, Harry's like, oh, well, this will be fine.
Remind me where this happened so that I am not mistaken. This is while he's under the invisibility cloak, right?
Correct.
Does the invisibility cloak make spells that come from under the invisibility cloak invisible?
Well, it's not necessarily, the Imperius Curse isn't like a jet of magic that shoots out. It's just like a charm. It befuddles the person. So there could be no visual magic within it.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty certain. I can't recall, I could be wrong, I can't recall any mention that the Imperius Curse, it was a pink glittery stream of magic. I don't...
Why wouldn't it be when everything else is represented that way?
Well, not everything. Wingardium Leviosa is just a floating spell. It makes an object float. There's no visual between the wand and the object. So spells aren't necessarily visual spells.
Okay. I'll give in, but it didn't make sense to me at the time.
Well, I think you are coming up with something very important here. Is this whole fucking thing, entering Gringotts, sneaking in, getting past all this. Holy shit, man. If it's this easy, why haven't we just done this already? Because everything seems to go right. Even when things are going wrong, things are going right.
Even a flooded chamber, a giant dragon, and a molten metal... Basically, it's like that... what was it? The Harrison Ford movie where he's a...
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, right?
Indiana Jones.
You chose poorly. All of these things just sort of kind of suck.
Okay.
Right?
So I'm not saying at 17 years old, you're not capable of saving the world. Not saying that. But at 17 years old, I am not fucking capable of saving the world, especially with two of my dipshit friends.
Dalton,
Three
at 28
people.
years old.
At 28 years old!
You're not capable of saving your groceries.
I'm lucky to make it out of Subway without spending half my paycheck on things I think sounded good. Invest in the sandwich. Anyway.
It's an investment in yourself, man.
You just gotta enjoy it. Meatball subs.
You gotta
enjoy those meatball
enjoy
subs.
the meatballs and just put some in the beads in your beard for later, man.
Leave the beads alone. Anyway, it seems very heavy-handed. I think if we are going into this a grand, overarching, a big climactic scene, the entering of Gringotts, I should feel a little more worried at this point that this isn't going to work out. But no, it's fine.
What in the history of this series makes you feel that way?
But it should. This should be the scene that has you concerned for the characters.
Sure.
Maybe Ron dies. Ron suffocates in a sea of multi-ball cups.
Maybe. Did it
But
happen?
it doesn't, and it never will. The only thing we get is, obviously, an incredibly abused animal. They're basically beating this thing so it fears noise so they can use it as a guard dog, which, hey, I live in northwest Missouri. This is clearly a chapter from the meth book. That's how you, honestly, it's a terrible thing, but that's what these people do. It's a shitty thing. But we're getting away with this. And this is obviously a known thing because this is a financial institution. So where are the wizarding police in this? This has been a culminating argument I've been wanting to bring up for a while, and I'm not going to bring it to a full head, but where the fuck are the wizard police? Who are, like, keeping everything under control here?
Don't ask me, Dalton.
I don't know. These are questions I need to get answered. Anyway, what else you got? What else you want to complain about?
518. As he followed Bill back to the others, a wry thought came to him, born no doubt of the wine he had drunk. First off, this is children's literature. What are you doing? But it goes on. He seemed set on course to become just as reckless as his godfather to Teddy Lupin, as Sirius Black had been to him. That would be interesting. That is an interesting thought. Obviously, we go nowhere with it.
No. And, you know, there is good build-up there. There is a good continuity behind this because Harry Potter's big shtick was he's lost all his family. Then he found he had a godfather. Things got better. He lost his godfather. Now Harry is assuming that role. Harry has to be the responsible one for this child. Because, obviously, things could happen. You never know. We're at war.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
523. She tasted disgusting. Worse than Gertie roots. Okay, Ron, come here so I can do you. Freud. 524. When Hermione is disguised as Bellatrix, she's walking around and she draws interest to herself because she tells a random person good morning, which draws interest because you're not being Bellatrix enough, right?
Okay.
That's not Hermione's character either. Hermione's not the type to go around saying, hello, good morning, how are you? Would you like to stop and talk? Okay. Maybe we can grab tea together sometime. That's not Hermione's personality either. So you've overdone it there. You don't know the character that you've been writing for 7 books now. For probably 4,000 pages of writing. You all of a sudden change Hermione's character to the type, like, oh my gosh, hello, good morning, how are you?
I will say this, and this is irrelevant to the book here. We're moving over to the movie realm. And I know you haven't seen the movies.
No, I have not.
Bellatrix Lestrange is played by Helena Bonham Carter.
Who else?
Yes. In this scene, Helena Bonham Carter is portraying Bellatrix Lestrange. However, she's portraying Emma Watson's Hermione Granger as Bellatrix Lestrange. It's actually a really fucking impressive scene from an actor's standpoint.
Yeah.
And she nails it, man. So props where props is due. I always really enjoy that scene when we get to this in the book. But in the book, you're right.
It's not Hermione's character.
I just wanted to talk about it.
Is it Hermione's character?
It's not Hermione's character.
What would Hermione do?
Just not fucking talk to anyone and go in and do what she was supposed to do, which would have been fine. That's a Bellatrix trait as well.
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, you're going to tell somebody to fuck off.
Yeah.
Whatever. But again, it's so heavy-handed that we can have these kids basically disguising themselves with Polyjuice Potion, taking a stolen wand, which the goblins know is stolen.
And which... Don't the kids know that the goblins know is stolen?
Yeah, and they even mentioned to the point they were like, well, you know, we know this is going on, but it'll be okay because I'm Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can get past all these fail-proof plans by pure luck. There's no skill involved here. This is pure luck. If there was skill, it would be interesting, and we would root a little bit more for them. But at this point, it's luck. It honestly is.
But Salty, Diddledore is watching over them. Didn't you know that you're a misogynist?
Just wait. Just fucking wait, man.
What do you mean?
Just wait. It's coming.
Is there something worse in this text?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it gets so bad. Oh. There's a chapter in here that's just so batshit insane. Like, you honestly have to sit down and ask, like, well, J.K. Rowling, what were you on? Yeah. Did you have a bender? Did you write this whole chapter on a bender? I think
Is this chapter your Cujo? Which, for anyone who doesn't know, Stephen King does not remember writing Cujo because he was so coked up at the time.
And if you ever do enough drugs where you can write a best-selling novel, you deserve your money.
If you ever do enough drugs that you can write a best-selling novel and not remember the entire process, congratulations.
You deserve your money. Anything else you want to talk about this week on Harry Potter?
That's all I really had, but I will maintain this. If you're going to tell me that I am wrong about these things, shame on you. Do not tell me that. Prove it to me. Give me examples. And when you find those examples, go back in the text, go back in the videos, and make sure that I haven't already told you why that is racist on the part of J.K. Rowling, why that is bigoted on the part of J.K. Rowling, why that is sexist on the part of J.K. Rowling. Because every time this author gets the chance to make a case against those things, she goes right ahead and makes the case for racism, makes the case for misogyny, makes the case for bigotry, makes the case for all of these horrendous things. And that is not my fault. It is not my fault that those things are in the text and they are so either explicitly in the text or they are so poorly done by such an incompetent writer and a minor mind that they come across the exact opposite of what she's trying to do. That's not my fault.
Hashtag racist Rowling. It's a thing. We're getting it started.
Yes.
Anyway, we will be back next week with 2 more chapters of Harry Potter. 2 more chapters of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Chapters 27 and 28, The Final Hiding Place, and The Missing Mirror. And you're excited.
I'm excited that we're 2 chapters closer to done with this. So if I have not incensed you too much, maybe remember to hit the like button because we've been getting waves of dislikes lately. Maybe subscribe if you are not and you enjoy seeing terrible writers put to the crucible. I don't know. And if you would like to help us create more content here on Strip Cover Lit, there is a link to our Patreon as always to be found in the description below. I'm not against Red Bull. All right. Do you have your Harry Potter badge?
No. It's a nice badge, though. It's a wonderful thought. All right. It's a good argument.
It's in the text.
No, it's not, Adrian.
Yes. God damn it.